Hey guys, it's ExandShadow, and welcome back to Let's Play Banjo-Tooie. In this part, we're going to splat onto the ground and do more stuff. Oh, I guess I should talk about what we did last part. In the last part, we explored some more of Witchyworld, turned into a car, and got some more jiggies. Nothing too major or exciting, but in this part, we're going to start off by finishing off the Crazy Castle Stockade. Basically, if you remember, last time we did the first minigame in here, which was a Kazooie-only minigame. And in this time, we're going to be doing the Banjo and Kazooie minigame, which requires you to get the airborne egg aim upgrade that you get in Space Zone. So, if you want to manage your backtracking a little bit better, you could go there before you go here. But you're going to be going back and forth on Witchyworld a whole lot anyway, just because, you know, there's that, the cable car ride. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's one of the smallest areas in the game. Because, you know, Witchyworld is mostly just an amusement park with a whole bunch of mini games in it. So the hub world in and of itself is probably the smallest in the entire game, though I'm not really sure. I haven't memorized like the square foot numbers or anything like that, but it feels like it's the smallest in the game, and the hub world is generally pretty tiny. Plus, you know, warp pads. So, you know, backtracking back to this shouldn't be too much of a problem. Anyway, this minigame functions pretty much just like every other minigame we played in the entire game, which I guess you could say is somewhat of a repetitive sort of thing, but seeing as the way that you do the minigames is completely different each time, it doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, just like always, you want to shoot the blue balloons and the green balloons whenever possible, and when you get a high enough number, or if you get a high enough number, there's a time limit, you get the jiggy. Don't worry about any Cheeto pages or anything. Sometimes the minigames you play, you know, there's a second prize where you get a Cheeto page and a first prize where you get a jiggy, but when it comes to the Crazy Castle Stockade, that's not the case. All there is just the one jiggy for each minigame. And then you're pretty much done. And for some reason, the ground programming in that room is a little bit funky, because I understand why they have... I think the ground isn't programmed for you to land if you go to the bottom, and I can understand why that is. Because if you're playing the minigame and you land on the ground, if the game is programmed to take you out of flight mode, then you wouldn't really be able to play the game anymore. But I don't think that they ever took that programming out when you're out of the minigame now. So I've tried to land the banjo there, and I don't think that you can, although it's been a while since I've tried that. So, you know, don't take quite my word on that. You know, that's just sort of a minor thing. You know? You know? You know. Anyway, as you remember last part, we drove around in the van. If you wanna do that to take out the enemies, that's great, but you gotta remember that the enemies always respawn, which is something that I guess I haven't really talked about a whole lot, is respawning enemies. And they don't bother me too much, because, you know, the enemies are easily avoidable in this game. But, you know, sometimes it's a little bit annoying once we get to the more obnoxious enemies later on, where, oh fuck, I fucking hate this thing. I'll get to what I think about this Big Top in a second, but sometimes once we get to the more obnoxious enemies, one of which we'll be meeting in this part, mind you, when they respawn really quickly and go back to annoying you, it's a little bit obnoxious. But, you know, for games with respawning enemies, at least it's clear what causes them to respawn. They're brought back with magic, which is a lot more clear than suddenly moving 3 feet to the left and having them reappear out of nowhere. You know, it might be a bullshit excuse, but at least it is an excuse, you know. Sometimes it's just, ugh. Mega Man really bugged me with that sort of shit, where it's just like, oh, you moved 2 feet to the left, looks like you gotta fight all these enemies all over again. I mean, I get it for games like Kirby, where you actually need the enemies to do things, but, you know, for a game like this, if the enemies are dead, just let them stay dead, you know? That's all I really want. Anyway, this is the Inferno, Jiggy. I was gonna say side quest, but technically if you were to call a Jiggy quest side quest, everything in this game would be a side quest. Which, I mean, I guess you could count, because, you know, collecting all of these Jiggies pretty much has nothing to do with our goal of finding Gruntilda. But anyway, this is one of the more annoying missions in the game, because of those obnoxious fucking carpet riding assholes. If you try to run, you have to put Banjo on the spring jump board there, and then use Kazooie with the the shoes in order to run up as fast as you can. I think the slide gets too steep for you to run up with just Kazooie alone, though don't quote me on that. But anyway, what makes this mission so obnoxious is that, as you can see, Kazooie has a pathetically small health bar, and those fucking carpet dudes are obnoxious to jump over. However, I have come up with a system that works pretty well for me. Basically, I keep on running, and as soon as I see the carpet guys, I stop and then jump over them. You have enough time on your shoes in order to get up, even if you do this, but trying to jump over them while you're still running is a good way to get yourself hit, because it's kind of hard to time the jumping on that, you know, just due to the way that you're running at sort of in the spiral motion, so it's not like you're just going left or right, and he's coming down at you and you've got to jump up to a higher level. It's just sort of a tricky jump to make in general, so that's why I recommend, you know, stopping, jumping over him, and then continue on running. You've got to do that like once every couple of seconds, like 3-4 seconds, because those guys will keep on spawning in infinitely, I should say, down the slide. So, you know, they're not just gonna go away. You will have to keep on moving. But if you use that little technique that I came up with, you know, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. They're not as bad as they will be in a later level of the game, where I want to take them and shove their heads through the floor because they're so fucking obnoxious. Ugh. Anyway, Mumbo is the reason why we need to go to Humba first. Basically, you need to use Humba's van in order to unlock Mumbo here in the Inferno. But the thing is that Mumbo also uses his magic to power something that we need to use Humba to use. So, yeah, that you're going to have to go to Humba at least twice if you want to 100% this area. Now, what does Mumbo do, you may ask? Well, Mumbo has kind of a one-and-done sort of deal here. Basically, you bring him to these little power generator thingamaboozle-fuckets, and he does his little dance and he calls Thor to say, "Hey Thor, I need you to lightning strike the son of a bitch." And Thor's like, "Okay dude, I can do that," and he goes zap! And he zaps the power generators. I don't think that one bolt of lightning would be enough to power these things for the rest of the game, but you know what? Whatever. Basically, once you have Mumbo power those generators, he will turn on the minigame that they respond to. So, for example, this generator powers the Saucer of Peril minigame, which we will be doing next part. There are 3 generators in total. The first one, like I just said, Saucer of Peril, which is a minigame that you have to unlock by freeing the saucer from Glitter Gulch Mine. You not only have to free him from Glitter Gulch Mine, but you also have to give him power in order to get that Jiggy and a Cheeto page. So it's very important that you unlock that as, I won't say as soon as possible, but it's a relatively easy Jiggy and Cheeto page once you do unlock it, so I recommend getting it out of the way as quickly as possible. The second one that you can get is, well, the second generator that you have to turn on is for this one, the Dodgem Dome. Basically, it's another minigame that's kind of like bumper cars. And once you turn it on, however, you're not done. This is the one that you need Humba for. Basically, once you turn it on, the door will open, but once you open the door, you're not allowed in. No, no, no. You've got to pay for this motherfucker, too. Because, you know, Humba's not Humba, Grunty, I guess. Grunty's the one who built the place, after all. So yeah, Grunty's fucking obnoxious, and she won't let you go into the minigame until you pay her, because she's a cheap sumbitch. And yeah, that's no good. The last thing that you have to power on is in Space Zone. It's the Star Spinner, which we haven't been in yet, but it's right here. Now, the Star Spinner is sort of a unique area of this level, because it's not a mini-game, or not exactly a mini-game. You know, it's not something that plays the music. You're not collecting the obligatory green, blue, red thingamahoozits, or shooting green, blue, red thingamahoozits. It's actually one of Banjo-Tooie's few, very, very few legitimate platforming sections. Now, people call these sort of games platformers, you know, but they're not really platformers in the traditional sense of the word. Like, when I think of a platformer, I think Mario, Sonic, 2D, run, jump on platforms, you know, Like, platformers are about reflexes and timing and obstacle course maneuvering. I don't really like the term because it's not really well, it is accurate, but it's often used as an insult, so I don't really like using the term. But Banjo-Kazooie isn't really a platformer, in as it's more a collectathon. Now, I like this sort of collectathon style, but most people, when they call a game a collectathon, are basically, you know, trying to insult it. It's like, oh, you just gotta pick up all the stuff and it's boring, and, you know, fuck them. But it's, yeah, these games don't really have a good genre name because, you know, they're not really platformers, because these games, platforming is never really a major focus. It's more about exploration. True, you run and you jump a whole lot, but it's never anything really challenging, you know? The challenge never comes from, can I jump on these platforms in the right order without getting hit or dying, like it is in a lot of other platform games. It's more just about, ooh, what can I find? Ooh, here's a cool puzzle, how do I solve it? Okay, what order should I explore each level in? You know, that's not really... They're not really the same thing, so yeah, I'd call this game a collectathon, but again, I really don't like the use of that word. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that I don't like the use of the word, because it is kind of accurate, but I don't like how it's used as an insult when, you know, it's just, this is sort of a game that caters to a specific taste, and if you don't like that taste, that's fine, but using the genre name as an insult in and of itself is just kind of stupid. It's like I think it's, to use a slightly flawed example, it's like comparing everything to FPSs. Because, like, I know that there's, in some subsections of gamer culture, there's, like, this big grudge against first-person shooter games because they've sort of overtaken the market. And I can understand that. But saying, oh, it's just like every other, it's just like a boring FPS, you know, the genre itself isn't necessarily bad. It's the games in the genre that's bad. Like, you know... It's just because there haven't been a lot of good, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like, original puzzle games, like, you know what, fuck it, never mind, I'm babbling. But, basically, yeah, it's just, this game isn't really a platformer, so I don't like calling it that, I just sort of like calling it Banjo-Tooie, because that's basically what it is. Anyway, yeah, like I mentioned before, like 5 times in this part alone, we need to use the van in order to pay Grunty in order to do the Dodgem Dome. It's... I don't know how much money it costs to go into the Dodgem Dome, but apparently it's at a 1 coin denomination, so that's good. However, yeah, once you pay the fee there, assuming you've gotten everything else as the van, you'll never need to use it ever again, so that's nice. Yes. The necessary backtracking in order to get into the Banjo form again. You know, why didn't I cut this out? I probably could have cut it out. You know, if I just left and came back and used some sly editing, you could just assume that I went to Humba off screen. But you know what, whatever. What's done is done. I'm already recording this, so there's no way I'm going back to edit something that I'm already commentating over. That would just take effort, and that is effort that I really don't have at this point. Anyway, now that we've opened up the Dodgem Dome and the Space Spinner, Star Spinner? Space Spinner, whatever the fuck it's called, we are going to go do those missions right about now. Well, actually, no, we're not. We are going to go talk to fat kids, because fat kids are funny. This is one of, Mrs. Boggy's children. I don't remember how many we've found at this point. But basically, this is the kid that requires you to backtrack back to Witchyworld at some point. Because no matter what you do, you cannot get this kid back to his mother at this point in the game. You need an ability from the 5th level in order to get his fat ass moving. So at this point, while you can give him the burger right now, he's not going to be going anywhere until you get a Banjo-only move later on in the game. So I just give him the burger right now just to get it done with, and so I don't forget about it later on. But just remember where he is, because I think unlike the other 2 children, he doesn't really move around a whole lot. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing somewhere that the other kids move around, but if he moves around, he definitely doesn't do so after you give him the burger. After you give him the burger, he'll just sit on his fat ass and, you know, complain until you bring him back to his mom. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Remember where he is, because if you forget, you're going to have to search the entire area for him, and that's no fun. But, yeah, you're going to want to remember him for when you get the 5th when you get that ability in the 5th world. Although I wouldn't recommend going back and picking him up right then, because there's some stuff that you can do in Witchyworld after getting an ability in the 6th level, and it's just better and more convenient to do all that backtracking all at once, you know. The less visits you have to do to a world, the better, because, you know, getting through a game fast means you can move on to playing even more games, and that's awesome. Anyway, here we have Dodgem Dome, which is the most sadistic fucking game of bumper cars I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Basically, there are 3 different levels to this minigame, kind of like how it worked at the Kickball Stadium in Mayhem Temple. And similarly to the Kickball Stadium in Mayhem Temple, it gets harder and harder every single time you play the minigame. Meaning, the first level, not so bad, second level gets a little bit harder, the third level gets a little bit harder than that. However, unlike the Mayhem Temple Kickball Stadium, they don't do this by changing the rules on you or introducing a new element to the game. No, they just do that by using the good old-fashioned game designer trick of throwing more enemies at you. Yes, in the first area of the Dodgem Dome, you have to run away from 2 bumper car enthusiasts while you collect the Twinklies, I think they're called. But yeah, there's, in the first, oh, I'm sorry, I messed up. In the first level, you gotta run away from 1 bumper car enthusiast, and in the second level, you gotta run away from 2, and in the third level, you've gotta run away from 3. Thankfully, the game is considerate enough to lower the Twinkly count you need every single time you go up a level, so while the first level requires the most Twinklies, it's the level where it's easiest to get them, because, you know, there's only 1 adversary there. In this one, you have to collect less, but you've also got 2 guys constantly bumping you, and that's fucking obnoxious. They're ganging up on you. They're not going after any of the Twinklies themselves. They're just trying to pin you in a corner and stop you in your tracks so you can't collect anymore. If you have more than 1 bumper car dude against you at any time, so this is in games 2 and 3, although it really only happens in 3. If they're managed to get you stuck against a wall so you can't move, the AI is actually programmed for one of the bumper car enthusiasts to go out, stop pinning you against the wall, because, you know, the other guy is doing that for them, and pick up all the Twinklies on the track. So, you know, I think that's actually pretty smart AI programming, where the game realizes that it doesn't just need to push you against the wall, it also needs to collect Twinklies to quote-unquote win. There's no adversary score or anything, but any Twinklies that the enemy carts pick up go away forever, so you're gonna want to make sure that you get there before the other ones do. Like you saw it right there, the orange and black guys had me pinned against the wall, and for a second there, the purple guy tried to go run out and collect some Twinklies before I got out, and he went back to chasing me. When you get to the 3rd stage like here, it gets really fucking annoying, because once they start pushing you against the wall, it gets really hard to come out. And yeah, you can get out eventually, but it takes a lot of pushing and prodding in order to get out of there. And when you get to the 3rd level, it actually does become difficult to even get the lowered amount of Twinklies that the game has sent you to create. If I could give any advice, try to stay away from pointing at walls if possible. Always try to point either towards parallel to the walls or towards the middle of the stage, because if your car is facing towards the wall, you have to turn yourself all the way around before you can get out and go back to collecting Twinklies instead of just be rammed against the wall, you know? That's the advice that I can give you. Anyway, next part we're going to be wrapping up Witchyworld. I'm ExandShadow, and I'll see you guys later. Also, new parts will come more frequently, I swear. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, the delay has been obnoxious, but yeah, sorry about that. More will come soon, I'm sorry.